Good afternoon. Here is Global News. I am Moninkanola Ogidan in the news. Ethiopian leader warns university students against violence. More drama in Bolivia following president's resignation. Protest paralyzes business activities in Hong Kong.
This is the news.
A lot of Nigerians still find it hard to believe that our climate and indeed the earth are changing. They are quick to attribute strange weather patterns to an act of God. In this special report, Titilope Adegolu examines the obvious effects of climate change on everyday activities. The year 2019 is particularly in our focus.
Climate change is no longer a foreign problem. Various manifestations of its impact are evident in Nigeria, even down to the 3 senatorial districts of Ondo State, affecting the lives of the people and threatening the very source of their livelihoods. Exactly what causes the Earth's climate to change? The sun is the predominant source of energy input to the Earth's climate system. Other sources include geothermal energy from the Earth's core, tidal energy from the moon, and heat from the decay of radioactive compounds. Both long and short-term variations in the intensity of these components are known to affect global climate. Global warming is closely associated with climate change. If the residents of Ondo State are still in doubt about whether climate change is in fact affecting their everyday lives, the perspectives of 3 different people from 3 areas of Ondo State lay such doubt to rest. Ojo Isaac is a cocoa farmer. He has been at the business of farming for over 20 years, and what he has seen in 2019 is still a wonder, with devastating effect on his main source of livelihood. He lives in Akure.
The rains refuse to stop. So, without the use of chemicals, there will be big problems. It rained in August, September, and October, raining cocoa.
His testimony is supported by Ade Ogunjugberu, a female farmer who tills the grounds of Ikale land with higher expectations that have been dashed to bits in 2019.
It has not always been like this. Usually in September, the rain starts thinning out. The farms are empty.
And as if this was not enough, fishing activities suffered a tragic blow as well. Akinte Moses told Adaba FM that he couldn't wait for 2019 to end so that a new year could begin.
What I experience now, that is the truth.
There are no fishes left. Rains make our work difficult. It makes it so hard for fishermen. Instead of bringing in 10 fishes at once, hardly do we find one.
Finding similarity in their tales of woes is the excessive amount of rainfall witnessed in 2019, which they all agreed was unprecedented and oddly formed. This agrees with the knowledge that the ecological effect of climate change is seen in the disturbed patterns of rainfall, a decrease in some regions and an increase in other regions. A conversation with the Secretary General of the African Climate Change Research Center, Nora Jibo, showed that the northern part of Nigeria has been grappling with the effects of climate change for at least 50 years. The African Climate Change Research Center is a United Nations Climate Observer Organization since 2016.
Northeast and northwestern Nigeria. These are the regions that are most affected in the entire country. You know, the southeast and the northeast and northwest, western region. They are the most ravaged by climate change. That is why I'm giving you this standard of comparison. Down south, I'm not saying there is no climate change. Of course, there is issue of climate change mitigation, especially in the Niger Delta area, where they emit a lot of carbon through gas flaring and so on and so forth.
Little do the Nigerian people know that human activities that contribute to climate change and in fact global warming are very common. Bush burning, for instance, remains an integral part of our farming system. A recent research shows that such a high level of degradation has been recorded in the northern part of the country that nomads were faced with no choice than to sojourn to western states, which of course are wetter, to keep their cattle fed. In a large area of Ondo State, an oil well belonging to one of the biggest oil companies burned fiercely beginning from April 2019, causing untold hardship to residents. Burning of fuels is one of the triggering factors for climate change, and it is no surprise then that 70% of one of the oldest communities in Ondo State, Ayetoro land, has been lost to the sea. The UN reported in September 2019 that the earth is changing at an alarming frequency, and it is not for the better. Now, before you strike that match, think twice about how much a tiny damage could do to our earth. For Adaba FM, I'm Titilope Adegulu.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has tasked the university students to guard against being used as agents of separatism. This call comes on the back of deadly violence in a university in the country's north. Violence was reported on the campus of Waldia University, located in the Amara regional state, where at least 2 students lost their lives over the weekend. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter is currently in the hospital in Atlanta for a procedure to relieve brain pressure. The Carter Center disclosed that the pressure comes from bleeding caused by recent falls. Mr. Carter is the country's oldest living leader. The Democrats was the 39th president, serving one term from 1977 to 1981. He was defeated in his re-election bid by Ronald Reagan. You're on to Global News from Adaba 88.9 FM Akure, transmitting from Ilaramoki. After the break, there is more drama in Bolivia following president's resignation, and in Hong Kong, protests paralyzes business activities. Details in the second part of the bulletin. Please join us again.
The news on Adaba 88.9 FM. The news on Adaba 88.9 FM.
Many thanks for staying tuned. For news update and live streaming, visit our website www.adaba889.fm or download Adaba 88.9 FM app on Google Play Store. Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Adaba FM 88.9. You can follow us on Instagram as well as on Twitter at Adaba 889 FM, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel on Adaba 88.9 FM TV. Now to the rest of the news. Tension is high in Bolivia following the resignation of President Evo Morales after weeks of protest. Evo Morales has accepted an offer of political asylum in Mexico a day after resigning as president of Bolivia amid election fraud protest. Mexico's foreign minister, Marcelo Ebrard, confirmed Mr. Morales had boarded a Mexican government plane. Meanwhile, Bolivia's military commander ordered troops to back up police who have clashed with Morales supporters. Some 20 people were reported injured in the clashes. Israel has killed one of the most senior commanders of a militant group in the Gaza Strip in an airstrike. A leader of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, Ba Abu al-Atta, was killed along with his wife when a missile hit their home. Israel said Abu al-Atta was a ticking bomb who was planning imminent terrorist attacks. Rocket barrages were fired at southern Israel from Gaza in the wake of the killing, which PIJ has vowed to avenge. There were no immediate reports of injuries from the Israeli authorities. Thousands of protesters have converged on Hong Kong's central business district, facing off with police and bringing the city to a standstill. Black-clad protesters struck the city's transport network as most schools and universities remain closed for a second day over safety fears. Earlier today, riot police fired tear gas at City University, where a standoff was underway between students and police throughout the morning. Overnight, clashes erupted there between police and protesters, and officers made an arrest outside one of the university's residences. Masked protesters also blocked the main road by dropping objects from a footbridge. And our sports, Red Bull Salzburg stars Enoch Mwepu and Patson Daka have arrived in Cairo, Egypt to join the Zambia Under-23 side for the 2019 Africa Under-23 Cup of Nations after missing the opening Group B barren draw against South Africa on Saturday due to club commitment. The Bola Nalesa boys will be bolstered by the arrival of the two stars, along with Belgian-based star Fashion Sakala, who joined camp yesterday, heading into the crucial confrontation with the Nigerians, who will be wounded after losing their opening match 1-0 to Cote d'Ivoire. Zambia were held to a 0-0 draw by rival South Africa in their first game last Saturday. Today's Group B game will hold at the Al Salam Stadium, Cairo. Only the top three finishers at the Under-23 AFCON will qualify to fly Africa's flag at the Men's Olympic Football Tournament in Tokyo, Japan next year. And now to end Global News, a recap of our top stories. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has tasked university students to guard against being used as agents of violence. In Bolivia, Evo Morales has accepted an offer of political asylum in Mexico a day after resigning as president amid election fraud protests. And finally, we brought you news that protesters have halted Hong Kong's business activities as most schools and universities remain closed for a second day over safety fears. That ends Global News as edited by Adeyemi Lawal. I'm Moninkanola, Ogidan. Thank you for listening. Good afternoon.
The world moves at a fast pace, and news breaks with the same speed.
The longest trip of the Donald Trump administration is now underway.
Not all stations can keep up. At Adaba FM, we not only give you news at the speed of nanosecond, but we also break it down with up-to-date analysis, informed opinions, and distinct professionalism. That's why you love us. Adaba 88.9 FM, your go-to station.